Hey, good morning, Branches. How's everybody doing? Come on, I just want to invite you to stand up. We're going to worship the Lord this morning. Hey, if you're outside and you can hear my voice, we're going to start service here. We're going to start with worship. Come on, sing The Dark Tried. The dark tried to hide you and steal you away. Oh, death tried to keep you inside of the grave. The enemy fought you. He tried, but he lost. You cannot be stopped. Come on. We cry. When we cried for freedom, you tore down the walls. The weight of our burdens, you carried it all. Yes, you did. Our fears and our failures lay dead on the cross. You cannot be stopped. The mover of mountains, breaker of chains, Jesus has triumphed over the grave. Sing hallelujah, the battle is won. Nothing can stand against our God. Come on, sing, we stand. We stand on your victory and shout out your praise. Oh, miracle maker, you're mighty to save. Yes, you are. Oh, awesome in power, relentless in love. No, you cannot be stopped. A mover of mountains, breaker of chains, Jesus has triumphed over the grave. Sing hallelujah, the battle is won, and nothing can stand against our God. Hey. Nothing can stand. There is nothing that can stop our God. There is nothing that can stop our God. There is nothing that can stop our God. There is nothing. There is nothing. Hey. There is nothing that can stop our God. No, there's not. There is nothing that can stop our God. There is nothing that can stop our God. There is nothing. There is nothing. Mover of mountains, breaker of chains, Jesus has triumphed over the grave. Sing hallelujah, the battle is won. Nothing can stand against our God. Sing hallelujah, the battle is won. Nothing can stand against our God. Come on. Come on, sing with us this morning. Peace like a river wash over me. Immerse me in water as deep as the sea. Oh, hide me in love, your healing embrace. Peace like a river, wash over me as I worship your majesty. I worship your holy name, Jesus, my everything. All that I am is yours. Come, Holy Spirit, rain down on me. Break open the heavens and drench the unseen. Oh, pour out your presence as we pour out our praise. Oh, come, Holy Spirit, Lord, have your way as I worship your majesty. I worship your holy name, Jesus, my everything. And all that I am is yours as I worship your majesty. I worship your holy name, Jesus, my everything. Oh, all that I am is yours. Oh, open the heavens, fling wide the gates. Oh, flood every heart with mercy. Pour out your presence, inhabit our praise as we cry, holy, holy. Oh, open the heavens, fling wide the gates. Oh, flood every heart with mercy. Oh, pour out your presence, inhabit our praise as we cry, holy, holy. And open the heavens, fling wide the gates. Oh, flood every heart with mercy. Oh, pour out your presence, inhabit our praise as we cry, holy, holy. Oh, oh, as we cry, holy, holy. Oh, oh. Lord, send revival. Lord, send it now. A move of your spirit, heaven break out. Oh, come now in power, cover this land like you've done it before. Would you do it again? Oh, Lord, send revival. Lord, send it now. A move of your spirit, heaven break out. Oh, come now in power, cover this land like you've done it before. Would you do it again? Lord, send revival. Lord, send it now. A move of your spirit, heaven break out. Come now in power, cover this land like you've done it before. Would you do it? Lord, send revival. Lord, send it now. A move of your spirit, heaven break out. Oh, come now in power, cover this land like you've done it before. Would you do it again? Oh, heaven break out. Heaven break out. Heaven break out. do it again. Oh, Lord, send revival. Lord, send it now. A move of your spirit, heaven break out. Come now in power, cover this land like you've done it before. Would you do it again? And we're going to sing one more song before we kind of go into the rest of the service. And this song to me it's an old song. It's actually a hymn. It's called It Is Well. Maybe you've heard of it. And I had to preface, this is actually not like the super old It Is Well. This is kind of a rendition of it. I was told that I started singing it and I saw someone be like, oh, it's not like the really old one. But it is a hymn nonetheless. It is very old. But there's something I love about this song. I actually think it is one of the most hard songs to sing. Not because it's very complex, but because the words of this song are saying, it is well with my soul. And I'm reminded of the story of Job, this man in the Bible who had everything and then lost everything. And even when his own spouse was saying, hey, like Job, just curse God and die. Like just give up. Like it's not working out the way you want. Just give up, curse God and die. He says, naked I came into this world, and naked I'll leave this world. Blessed be the name of the Lord. And he said, regardless of the outcome, regardless of what my life looks like, I'm still going to praise the Lord. Regardless of all the stress that I'm feeling, regardless of all the hardship that I may be facing, I'm going to make this choice this morning to say, blessed be the name of the Lord. It is well in my soul that God is my portion, that my peace is not found in the things of this world, that it's not found in the haves and have-nots, but it's found in the peace of God. And man, I just believe that there may be someone here this morning that you've been trying to find peace in yourself. You've been trying to find peace in your own circumstance. Maybe it's peace in money, peace in that promotion, peace in having friends or not having friends. And I just believe that God is here this morning. And I don't really believe in coincidence. I don't believe that you're here by accident. I believe that you're here or watching online because God had this moment set aside for you to say, come and enjoy my rest. Come and have my peace, because the peace that he gives surpasses all understanding. Amen. Grand earth has quaked before, moved by the sound of his voice. Seas that are shaken and stirred can be calmed and broken from my regard. And through it all, my eyes are on you. Through it all, it is well. And through it all, my eyes are on you, and it is well with me. See, far be it from me to not believe, even when my eyes can't see. This mountain that's in front of me will be thrown into the midst of the sea. And through it all, my eyes are on you. Through it all, it is well. And through it all, my eyes are on you, and it is well. It is well. So let go, my soul, and try trust in Him. The waves and wind still know His name. So let go, my soul, and trust in Him. The waves and wind still know His name. The waves and wind still know His name. It is well with my soul, and it is well with my soul, regardless of the outcome. It is well. Oh, I'll praise you through the storm with my soul. It is well. It is well with my soul. It is well with my soul. It is well. It is well with my soul. It is well. And it is well. It is well with my soul. So let go, my soul, and trust in Him. The winds and wind still know His name. So let go, my soul, and trust in Him. The waves and wind still know His name. The waves and wind still know His name. Through it all, my eyes are on you. Through it all, it is well. Through it all, my eyes are on you, and it is well with me.
Father God, we are so grateful for what you've given us, Lord, that you give us the air that we breathe, that you give us the time that we have to enjoy you and enjoy each other, Lord. I pray that today is an impactful day for all of us, and you meet us here in this place. We love you, Lord. Amen. Well, welcome to Branches. Those of you who don't know me, my name is Mike Curl. I'm one of the staff here, and it's just a pleasure to have you. Honestly, I've seen so many new faces, and right now I can't see much of anything, and that's fine. You're beautiful, I promise. It's not you, it's me. But I'm up here, and I'm just here to welcome you. So Branches is a church. We're building a space or a place. We call it a church, but it's really just a community of people that you belong to, that we want to be able to bring our friends to. And so if you're here, that means we consider you a friend. We consider you part of the family. So even if you're joining us online, hi, Mom. you are welcome here, and we're just super thrilled to have you. So just a lay of the land for you, just some of the things, because we do church maybe a little bit differently than you've done if you've experienced church somewhere else, is that 24/7, we've got the cafe open, just not Monday through Saturday, or any time that's not church. But it's open, and you guys are welcome to get refreshments at any time. You know, that joke landed way better first service. You guys had time to sleep in. You should be awake. It's fine. I'm sure it's me. No, we're just super thrilled that you're here. And as you know, you're in the second service. So we had a service earlier this morning. It was well attended. We're just so thrilled to see this place getting packed out. Everybody's coming. And so we're just thrilled that you're here. One of the things, though, that I love about two services, maybe I'm alone in that because it's a lot of work, is that it's an opportunity for us to be able to serve and be able to experience community, be able to experience church together. Because I don't know if you know this, but if you serve in the first service, you can come and watch the second one. And vice. I know. Secret. It's a secret. The branch is secret. It's the second best kept secret. Timmy will talk to you about the best kept secret if you come to the first service. So that's a little bit thing for you. But no, opportunity to serve. We believe, honestly, that serving is something that was made into us. It's a thing that we need to do in order to sort of scratch an itch on our soul, that we are all uniquely created with gifts, skills, the tool set to really be able to serve other people. And when we serve ourselves with those things, it doesn't feel quite as good as it does when we serve another. And so we just encourage people to get plugged in to serve, not just Branches, but anywhere in your community. And here at Branches, we want to find a space that's perfect for you. So we're not necessarily looking to fill holes with your service. We want to be able to fill a hole in you with service, and we'll just find the best place for you. So by all means, you can head out to the front, grab one of those green serve cards, throw it in a red box, let us know that you're interested. We'll get in contact with you and find out more. But otherwise, I've got a few announcements for you before we get into the rest of the service. We have about a half hour left, so bear with me. This part won't take too long. But next week, we've got a baptism. Who likes baptism? Everybody over here. Do you guys like baptism? All right, we got some. Perfect. Maybe I've told this story to you guys before. I apologize for repeats, but baptism for me was the first time I went to church after I became a Christian when I was 19, which was like 2 weeks ago. I was 19, and hey, guys, I'm right here. Let me have this, okay? That it did. Thanks, Mike. No, so when I was 19, I came to Christ, and we were doing church in a hot tub store of all places, perfect for baptisms. And, we're standing, like, people are just pouring out because, like, we're all in the parking lot and the sort of inside, and some people are sitting on hot tubs, and then obviously somebody's in a hot tub. And the guy goes down, and he comes back out, and when he was underwater, for 30 seconds, maybe 3 minutes, who knows? So, it's not long. The front row had ripped their shirts off. And they had his name, Dave, written across the front of it. It was like a football game. They were going, yeah, Dave! It's just like, whoa, I was hooked at that moment. So, just hints for next week. Come with your paint, right? And just get that ready. Guys only, sorry. But, it's going to be fun. It's going to be great. But no, if you haven't signed up for baptism, there's still time. You're welcome to sign up. If you don't sign up, that doesn't mean you can't get baptized. We just want to have a conversation with you beforehand. Something else is happening after service next week. So after we have the party of baptism, we're going to have a party of family time, right? So this is a rhythm we're starting where every week on the fourth Sunday of the month, we're inviting families with kids. And yes, if you're 18 in here, you're still a kid. So come because it's fun. We're prioritizing the fun in that. So we want families to come together. We want to have a place, create a space where families can just review what God is doing in their lives throughout the week and be able to do activities and just have fun together. We'll provide a simple lunch, and then you guys just hang out, and it's going to be a great time. We'd like it if you RSVP just so we have enough food, but we're not going to turn anybody away if you forget, so that's not a problem there. The following Friday, I know, we're just chugging along. Fall is busy. We're doing the Furnace, which is on the 5th Friday of any month that has a Friday. There's 2 of those left in this year, September and December. We're doing a furnace on both of those. And the furnace is a place where we feel, and that's why there's fire. We're not lighting on fire, promise. But it's where we feel like when you step into a furnace, when you step into a space that kind of turns the heat up in your life, you have an opportunity to remove the impurities in your life. You have an opportunity to kind of be refined, to be able to experience something in a more pure form. And so what we're really prioritizing on that night is a worship experience. We want to come into a space where we can just get in a heart set, a mindset, a soul set where we are just worshiping God, just intently the whole night. So we're going to encourage people to fast that day. We're going to break that fast together with a soup, salad, and bread, which you can sign up to bring online if you'd like. And then we're also going to, because it's one of the places where we prioritize, it's an environment for us where we prioritize taking communion. So we'll be doing that together as well at every single furnace. So that's the 5th Friday of the month. Say 5th Friday. Hey, you guys are awake now. I like it. That's perfect. That's the furnace. So Coming up the Sunday just following that, October 2nd, it's the first Sunday of October, we've got Starting Point. So Starting Point is a small group or an intimate setting where you're able to ask your questions. Ask questions about faith, about God, about really anything that's kind of just like turning over inside of you with this whole relationship to Jesus thing. Starting Point is a great place to do that. And to be honest, whether you've been walking with God for 60 years or you just started or you haven't even started, this is the place to go because we know about everybody in here. We all have a place that we need to start. So this is the place to go. Sign up for that. It takes place during the first service. So all of you folks who come to the second service, you've already figured it out. You're ready to go to Starting Point and then come to the second service. It's perfect. Thanks, guys. You guys are all set, right? There you go. And finally, we've got the women's retreat coming up. Now, for those of you who know, we've been announcing this for a little bit. Exclusive Branches signups ended last week, but there's still spots. We've just now opened it up to the Columbia County women at large. So if you still want to sign up, you have a chance, but they are filling up fast, and we've now opened it to the community at large. So if you're raring to go, you haven't signed up yet, definitely get signed up. All signups need to be done by the end of the month because they need a final count before we go. So we're looking forward to that. That's all I have for announcements for today. I do just want to take a moment. Who here stuck around for the second service lunch last week? Yeah, all right. Like there were way more of you there, I know, because I saw you. So I don't know. Like, do you guys remember how to clap or like cheer? It goes, I can't do it. It's fine. Now I get it. Now I know why you can't do it. It's okay. But last week we had an amazing turnout. There were probably about 100 people here. We served nachos. We had a whole bunch of time. I know that I got to meet a few people that I just haven't had a chance to really get to know better. And so I'm just thrilled. I hope you were able to do that. We're doing that every single month on the second Sunday. That's like one of the best places, best ways to get to know somebody you don't know. And we feed you. It's like we're paying you to do it, right? So it's awesome. But today we're going to continue the conversation we started last week where we went back to school as Branches, as a corporation of church, right? As people who are under a common thread. We were meeting together to do a common thing, to worship Jesus, to learn more about God, to learn what the Father has for us. And we're doing that together, and we call that church. And so at Branches, we do that a little bit uniquely. And so we're going back to basics on what it means to be Branches, and at large, what it means for us to be together in community moving forward. So that's what we're talking about today. I'm going to let Timmy do that. So here we go.
Branches, welcome. Thanks for being here today. Thanks for joining us online and in person. It's going to be a great day. Today we're continuing our series, Back to School. Ready or not, it just kind of came at you. You know, it happens every year. Parents, you guys know where we're at. Students, you know what's coming. The rest of us are like, hey, I'm done with school. No, you're not. According to Branches, we're all going back to school together. And it's going to be good because ultimately, you know, as much as I didn't enjoy school for the most part, it was necessary, I would say, for the most part, because I learned a lot of things. And as a church during this series, we're going to kind of go back to the basics of topics and points that are central to Branches and what we do here and why we do it. Not necessarily, I'm going to be honest with you guys, not my favorite kind of series to do, but it's also, again, like school, it's necessary every once in a while so we can really see where it is we're going. It'll pay dividends down the road. So we're looking forward to that. And today we're touching on something, really unpacking something that we touched on a little bit last week, which is community. And how central it is. And I was really wrestling. I'm like, can we talk about community already? Because I feel like that was a decent part, at least a hard-hitting part of last week's message. And I'm like, no, it's necessary. It is that important to us as Christians and to us as Jesus followers within Branches that we really need to focus on it and make sure it hits home or hits hard and is just kind of drilled in our minds. So thank you for being a part of this today. So last fall, it was just actually almost exactly a year ago, my family and I, we headed for a trip. Some of you guys are tired of hearing about this trip because the first part of it was in Hawaii, and you guys are like, oh yes, suffering for Jesus. More like surfing for Jesus. I didn't surf. mostly because I can't. I had the opportunity many times, but I didn't. All right, but it was a lot of school. I mean, it was like 8 to 5 every day. We were doing school and doing training. And a couple weeks into us being in Hawaii, we got to find out where our outreach location was going to be. It was a missions organization, so we're like, we're going somewhere crazy in the world that I'd never been to, and we didn't know where. And it was finally revealed. I'm just going to give you a little preface on this. Basically, everywhere they go, we were told this, is going to be hot. Like it's either going to be southern hemisphere because it was in the wintertime, so it would be their summer, or it was going to be somewhere near the equator where it's always hot. So I'm just going to tell you, I didn't pack a pair of pants, like not even a single pair of pants. It was all shorts for me. I didn't pack a sweatshirt, a jacket, or anything, because why would I? It's going to be warm. So we got our outreach location, and it was Norway, of course, in the middle of wintertime. So that was crazy for a lot of reasons, but one of the reasons was because it was like full-on Delta variant COVID time, and every country had their own way of handling things, and at that point, Norway was like, yeah, if you're not from here, you're not coming here. So Americans, it was out of the question. Like, we couldn't go there. But we had some people on our team who were like, hey, we're from Norway. I don't know if they like pulled some strings or what, because there's only like 5 million people in that country. But either way, they were like, we're going to go, and we're going to trust God, and he's going to come through, and it's going to be great. And for me, I was like, I don't like that. Like, I would like you just to tell me exactly how it's going to play out. That's what I want to hear. So as grueling as it was, we planned, and then 2 weeks before we left, it was like December 10th or something, they're like, oh yeah, Norway's open to Americans. And now it wasn't completely open. It was still through a lot of hoops, a lot of testing, a lot of mask wearing and restrictions and all that kind of stuff. But we finally made it to Norway. And while we were there for 2 months, I kid you not, it went from being like almost the most locked down country, I guess, maybe not the most locked down country, but it was pretty extreme, more extreme than the United States. It went from that to COVID's over, we're treating it like the common cold, no isolation, no masks, no anything. And so it was interesting to see that play out because it really did, early on especially, affected the way we did ministry. We did a lot of like one-on-one home visits and stuff like that because you weren't allowed to have more than like 15 people in a home, even though we had like 18 people on our team, so we may have fudged the rules a little bit there, but it was really just like we would go, or half our team would go meet with a family, and it was a different way of doing ministry, but it was actually really fruitful, really incredible. But sure enough, about 2 weeks before we're set to come back to the United States, and mind you, while Norway had decided COVID was over, nobody else had at this point. So they're like, yeah, if you're going to come back to the United States, you're getting tested. And if you test positive, you're not coming back here. And I'm like, oh, shoot. Well, now Norway's over with COVID. We're not over with it yet because now I'm sweating it. I'm like, I don't want to be stuck in a country that's not my own, unable to get back to my country. Like, that stressed me out. And sure enough, 2 weeks before we're set to go back, or about 10 days, someone on our team comes down with COVID. So at this point, I was Mr. like, who cares? Like, we're just going to do everything. It'll be fine. Trust God. I'm like double masking and like windows down in the middle of Norway in the middle of winter because I'm like, I don't want to get stuck here. And sure enough, 3 days later, somehow the person in the room next to her, even though there was no like wall ventilation, she got COVID. And she had been with us on our last day of ministry in my van, and we had already went back to a skeleton crew because we're like, we don't want to spread. We're just going to send 6 people in 2 full vans. We're going to sit apart from each other, windows down, masks on. It's going to be fine. But then we went to dinner. Of course, you have to have your mask off at dinner. You got to sit next to people, and COVID doesn't spread at dinner, and I got it anyway. So a couple days later, I get a little twinge in my throat, and it's like, shoot, I'd had COVID before. I wasn't really worried about getting it again. But the fact was that 3 days before we're ready to come home, I'm positive. And I'm like, shoot, I'm positive I'm staying in Norway for at least a few more days. And it turned out to be not nearly as bad as I had made it up in my head. But the point was, as I stayed there, I had to travel back alone. And my family was in Florida at this point. That's where we were doing our debrief. And I took the first flight from Trondheim, Norway, to Schiphol, I think that's how you say it, in Amsterdam. How many of you guys have been to that airport before? Yeah, that airport is nuts. Have you been to Atlanta Airport before, anybody? Like that airport is like the hub of the United States. Like everything goes through Atlanta. It's the busiest, I think it's the busiest airport in the world by volume. Atlanta is. Shepool's like that, but the fact is about that, it's more of like an international hub. So like if you're traveling from Africa to the United States, like you're going through there. If you're going from the United States to Asia, you're probably going through there. And so what I realized while I was there is that I was like more interconnected, or had the ability to be more interconnected than I had ever been in my entire life. Like countries from all over the world, countries honestly that I hadn't even heard of, and I'm pretty decent at geography. I'm like, I didn't know that existed. Eritrea, I don't know how you say it, in Africa. I met a guy from there. I didn't know that was an African country, small African country on the East Coast there. But the fact is like there was people from all over, and I was starting to think like this is a crazy opportunity. Like not many times in history, 100 years ago, that would have been unheard of, and definitely for the last couple thousand years, like that was unheard of. This is all so new and incredible. But in that moment where I had the ability to be connected to more people than ever before in my life, I was completely alone. I felt it. I was away from my people, I was away from my family, and even though I had the ability to be connected, I was completely disconnected. And we see this too in the tech revolutions that this country has seen 150 years ago, before, I don't know the exact dates, but before the phone was invented, the telephone, the telegram was invented, right? And so they had the ability to send messages on something other than like a horse, which was insane. Through wire, it was fast, it revolutionized the world, and then the telephone came along. And totally game changer, huge game changer. And now we take for granted the fact that you can FaceTime someone in an instant from across the entire world and be that like 4K, like perfect clarity with someone around the world. And it's crazy. These tech revolutions have done society a lot of good. But at the same time, I would argue that they've actually hurt us in community. Our ability to be in community with each other. It's hurt us. And it's not the fault of technology. It's really our response to it. It's our fault in it all. But you've seen this play out, right, in a small group of people, especially Gen Z and millennials. I can speak to that because that's me. You get a few of us in a room, and you don't give us any instructions for about 10 seconds. Everybody's on their phone. You know what I mean? You've seen it. And boomers and Gen X, you guys like to laugh about it, but your moment's coming, don't worry. But we're all on our phones, and everybody's like, you guys aren't even talking to each other. You're talking to someone probably, someone who's not in the room, and I'll tell you why that's a problem in a second, but Gen X and boomers, you guys are guilty of this too. Sometimes it's not just with the phones, but it's the fact that you've been on Facebook all day, reading news articles that don't just tell you the news, they tell you how to think about the news, and now your mind is so consumed with that when you go over to grandma's house, and you guys are talking, it's like, hey, did you hear what happened in India this morning? And it's like, don't you want to hear about my life? I got stuff going on in my life, and we talk about things that we can't affect and don't really matter to us in our context of life too much, and we have all this news that we're kind of inundated with. It kind of fills our minds, fills our conversations. Suddenly now our community is hurt because we're either not talking to each other when we're in close relationship and proximity with each other physically. It hurts our community. And what I've noticed to be true about all of this is that while we have the ability to be connected more than ever, we're actually more disconnected than ever before in the way that we do community. And I would argue that that's because we are acceptance magnets. We love acceptance, but at the same time as we love acceptance, we talked about that a couple weeks ago, we run from accountability. You know what I mean? Have you seen this? And the Instagram highlight reel proves this. If you guys are on Instagram, you know this. You post the picture of the best meal that you had all week. Not the worst one, the best one. Because you want people to be like, oh yeah, look at this person. They're living large. Their life is good. You post the best of the 15 selfies that you took. Not the worst one. Not the awkward one where you're like half smiling and you're like, You know that one. There's a lot of them. With me, even it's like, man, you're lucky to find a good one. But you post the best one. Right? We're able, when it comes to a digital community, which is not all bad. It doesn't have to be bad. But the problem is that we're able to dictate the terms of our digital community when it's all online. We get to control what people see and how we respond to it. And that's not always healthy. Because if someone calls you out in the digital world, you don't have to respond. I was a youth pastor for 4 years. I see these kids on their phone all the time. I would text one, and like 3 days later, oh, sorry, I just saw this. Yeah, right. You didn't just see that. I'm sorry, you put your phone away for 3 days. It's like, no, you didn't want to answer the hard question. You know? It's so true. We get to dictate the terms of our digital community, and we don't have to hear the things that we don't want to hear. And that's a problem. And really, it's a problem because it boils down to pride. It boils down to pride in us. The reality is that nobody likes being told what to do. We know this. Even if someone tells us what to do, and we know in our hearts that they're right because you've been telling yourself the same thing, or maybe someone told you it yesterday, that first little reaction is always a pushback, like, you're right, but I don't like that it's coming from you. It's our pride that says, hey, I got this. I got life figured out. I don't need anybody to speak into my life. As a young person, I knew this a lot, especially if you knew me when I was young. I did not like being told what to do at all because I had it all figured out. But the reality is when you're young, the fact is because you haven't experienced things, you don't have it all figured out. That's like the definition of it. Yet we do these things in life that we're like, hey, I got this. I'm going to figure out this thing all on my own with no input from anybody else. And then you're like, welcome to college, welcome to marriage. It's like, yeah, no one's done that before. You should just go in there headstrong, like, I got this figured out. Why? You haven't done it. You don't have it figured out. So when it comes to our digital community, we're able to just go on with life with no accountability. And that is a problem. So accountability is important. That's foolish. Really, living life like that is foolish. So if we want to do the opposite of foolish, what is the opposite of foolish? Or fool? Yeah. Wise, wisdom, right? Opposite of someone who is foolish is someone who is wise. And there was this guy named Solomon who's regarded by biblical historians and other historians as being the wisest man to ever live. And it was crazy because he had this moment with God that's such a unique story in the Bible where Solomon was in line to be the third king of Israel. The son of King David, David and Goliath and all that, great king. Solomon comes in the picture. He's young. He's inexperienced. And God comes to him and he's like, hey, I like what you're doing, Solomon. I'm going to give you like one wish. This was like a genie in the bottle moment for Solomon. He could have picked anything. Land, wealth, women, like power, whatever he wanted. And he simply asked for wisdom. He's like, I want to rule these people well. I want wisdom. Like, who does that? That was this incredible moment. So he becomes the wisest man to ever live. It's also said that he may be the richest man to ever live. It's hard to do calculations from that far back, but with inflation and all that stuff accounted for, he's probably the richest man, if not one of the top 5 ever to live. This was Solomon. And he wrote these incredible bits of wisdom literature in the Bible, a big chunk of Proverbs, and he also wrote this book of Ecclesiastes, which is oftentimes really confusing. But this truth in Ecclesiastes 4 is absolutely vital for us as people. He says this in Ecclesiastes 4, verse 7. This is Solomon speaking. He says, I observed yet another example of something meaningless under the sun. So we know we're in for it here. He says this is a case of a man who is all alone, without a child or brother, yet works hard to gain as much wealth as he can. It's like, what's the point of this? And Solomon speaks to that. He says, but when he asks himself, what am I working for? You see this wisdom creeping into the foolishness. What am I working for? Why am I giving up so much pleasure now? It's also meaningless and depressing, that life filled with, I got this figured out. I don't need any input. That's what that life leads to. It's meaningless. It's depressing. And he contrasts it with this next truth. He says, two people are better off than one, for they can help each other succeed. We know this about life. If one person falls, the other can reach out and help. But someone who falls alone is in real trouble. Like we know this, I think, in our hearts to be true. No one would look at this and be like, nah, I can argue with it. You can't really argue with it. The reality is in life, when we're outside of community, we should realize that we need support. And support is such a huge part of community. We were not meant to do life alone. I don't care if you're a Jesus person or not. This is just a simple truth. We were not meant to do life alone. Even if you go back to the Garden of Eden, and God looked at Adam and he's like, it's not good for man to be alone. Like this is not the way it was designed. There's got to be more. We need support. Life is filled with like hills and valleys. Like, you know this. There's the good moments in life, and you may be at one of those now. Odds are you're somewhere in between, but you should know objectively that there's going to be a pit at some point in your life. They're inevitable. It's happening. And I remember something that was so big in my wife's life growing up. We got into a small group when we first started coming to Branches in 2009. And it was a group of people that went to Branches but lived in Portland that were going to college. We lived in Portland at the time. And we got in this group, and it was college people. They were a couple years older than us, a couple years ahead of what we were doing. And it was so impactful for us in our first year of marriage to have this support, because they walked with us through the difficult times. They gave us wisdom from stuff that they may have fell short on early on in their marriages. It was absolutely vital. Our next small group that we attended was in SCAP. Experiences of following Jesus, experiences of messing up and then finding their way back to Christ. And it was so impactful in our lives. Huge. And I'll never forget this one night. We were having small group, and the couple that was just a few years older than us, they came in, and something had changed. And we knew it, and we sensed it, and they started talking, and they revealed that the wife and the mother, she had stage 4 breast cancer. She was 30 years old, and it's like a Mack truck, in an intersection just smacked us. Like, what? That can't happen. Like, what? And it was brutal. It was so hard. Over the next year, my wife was going to school to be a hospice nurse practitioner at the time, and she got to live what it was like going through the death and grieving and loss process with this family. And over the next year, and she eventually did pass away, the way the community surrounded this family was nothing short of incredible. I mean, it was text messages, it was phone calls, it was us being a sounding board for their frustration, their anger at God, and watching them through this whole time and supporting them, bringing them meals and loving on them every step of the way. It was the perfect picture of community, as painful as it was. And I have to imagine, and it wasn't just done too when she passed away. It was families coming together. My wife was over there early in the morning, getting the girls ready for school, taking them to school so that dad could go to work. It was loving on them. Some of you guys in this room were actually a part of that story and helping and loving on this family. It was an incredible just picture, as painful as